Welcome along to Extra Time here on LCFC Radio and LCFC TV after another Leicester City victory, this time over Crystal Palace in the Premier League at King Power Stadium. We'll assess that game, the impact of Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall across the whole season, in particular in these last few months, and that brilliant man of the match performance yesterday. We'll also look back at the 0-0 draw with PSV in the UEFA Europa Conference League on Thursday and look ahead to that second leg, of course, this coming Thursday. Without further ado, let's introduce our guests then. We've got Tony Cottee, Iwan Roberts and Matt Elliott who join us today. Did we all have a nice weekend, guys?
Yes, thanks, Dan. Yeah.
Yes, thanks, Dan. Busy.
I'll go first, Dan. I had a wonderful Saturday. I had the first two in the Grand National, including a 66-1 winner. So I was flying on Saturday. I then had the misfortune of being at Brentford West Ham yesterday, and West Ham just didn't turn up. And there's a little point I'd like to make about the connection between what West Ham do after European games and what Leicester do. And I think there's a real interesting point to make there, Dan, later on.
Okay, brilliant. Yeah, I look forward to it. So you were brought back down to earth a little bit on Sunday then, Tony, after Saturday's winnings.
Oh yeah, I was all excited. Mind you, I did have Rory McIlroy as well to finish in the top 9. So I've had a good weekend, Dan. It was just the football. As always, the social was great, but the football let me down.
Ewan, how about you? I assume you were working somewhere?
Yeah, I was at Reading on Saturday, and then I joined you, Dan, Tags, and Marty for the game yesterday. And then I watched the City Liverpool game after we went off air, and watched the Masters last night. So a sporting weekend.
A good weekend. That's the only way they can be, isn't it? And finally, Matt, how about you?
Yeah, mine was pretty steady, mate. Obviously working with you yesterday, enjoyed the game, and the big one afterwards, well, Man City Liverpool, had a look at that, but certainly wasn't as good a weekend as Tony, that's for sure.
No, I don't think many people will have done that. Right, let's get straight into yesterday then, Ewan. As you said, you were working for us at the game, and it was a good win for a much changed Leicester side yesterday.
Yeah, 6 changes in all, I think, Brendan.
That's 7 in the end.
7 in the end. I mean, it's a good win, a really good win, because if you look at Palace's form, they come into that game on the back of that magnificent 3-0 win at Sellers Park against Arsenal on Monday night. I thought they were outstanding against Mikel Arteta's men on the night. And they're a good side. If you look at the start that they had in the Patrick Vieira, some people are questioning, was he the right man? I think they only won once in their opening 9 games, but they only lost 2. And all of a sudden they've started winning games. They were unbeaten in 5, hadn't conceded in their last 3. So it was never going to be easy. They're a good side. He's changed the philosophy there with the way that they approach games now. They were a bit more defensive under Roy Hodgson. I think they played more football now. They're more of a possession-based team. So it was always going to be a tough test. There wasn't a lot to separate the teams in the opening half hour, but then those 2 goals in the space of six minutes at the end of the first half just changed the game completely on its head, to be fair. I'm not disappointment. I was disappointed for the lads, especially defensively, that they couldn't keep a clean sheet. Because I thought defensively, once again, they were magnificent and deserved to keep a clean sheet. But good performance, great 3 points.
Yeah, you were on co-commentary, Matt, weren't you, for the game yesterday? And we probably expected the start of the game to be a little bit like it was for 40 minutes. It was quite quiet, wasn't it, the game? It was quite flat. Obviously, one man brought it to life, didn't he, individually? But before that, with the fact that Leicester had played in Europe, with the amount of changes, you probably expected it to be like that.
Yeah, and also, despite, as Ewan says, Crystal Palace have changed their way of playing a little bit, but they're still quite dogged and difficult to play against. A very patchy game, wasn't it, as you pretty much expected. They really condensed the play, and you have to do something a little bit out of the ordinary to break through them, to penetrate them, as proved to be the case with Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall in the first goal. There was a very little quality out there, in fairness, in the first section of the game, and it was all a little bit hustle and bustle. I think Mateta broke through at one stage, didn't he? Brought down a low left-handed save from Kasper Schmeichel coming to the rescue. That aside, not too much goal-mouth action. There were one or two half chances. But yeah, it was a scrappy affair, really. And I thought the atmosphere was better than I expected it to be as well, because obviously it was a big game on Thursday. And it wasn't sort of after the Lord Mayor's show feel about it. And obviously the big one coming up Thursday as well, in the return tie. You know, there could have been a little feeling of apathy going around, and with it not meaning the world in terms of Premier League status at the moment. But I thought both sets of supporters really applied themselves well, added to the occasion. Leicester just showed as I think you can expect these days, they looked the more likely with the lineup that they had that someone would produce something. You know, we've said it a number of times now, haven't we, about Leicester's lineup, whoever it is, 7 changes or not. You don't know whose day it's going to be, but the positive thing is there's always 4, 5, 6 players whose day it could be. They're not limited to, perhaps a little bit like Crystal Palace. I know they're not solely relying upon him. It's dependent on whether Zaha turns up or not, to some degree. With Leicester, they got many more options. And yesterday was Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall's day, wasn't it? Again, you have to say, he was, apart from being the key man in the 2 most important actions of the game, generally, he was Leicester's biggest influence, wasn't he, out there? And unbelievable for the relative inexperience that he's got.
How impressed, Tony, have you been with the way Leicester have dealt with playing after European football? I mean, if you want to make your point now that you've got, then please go ahead and do so, because I think Iwan said something similar yesterday, that the Leicester's form generally after Europe has been pretty decent.
Yeah, that was the point I was going to make, Dan, listening to both what the lads have said there. You know, as I said, I was watching West Ham yesterday, pretty much played the same team, made only 2 changes, and West Ham just looked so tired and lethargic. And I want to praise Brendan, and I also want to praise the squad players that have come in and have done such a good job, because you know, West Ham's points returned are playing on a Sunday after a Thursday. I think they're at the bottom of the table of all the teams that played in Europe this season, whereas Leicester have pretty healthy performances after those Thursday night games. And we all know how much it takes out of the players physically, mentally, travelling, you know, if there's travel involved. So it can be really hard to play on the Sundays. And, you know, to make 7 changes, this is where the praise is for Leicester and the boys. It's a massive decision to make, because, you know, you want to go into the game, and all right, it's not a game that's. If you look at the points total at the moment in the Premier League, you could say it was like a mid-table game, but Leicester are still pushing. They're still trying to catch up and make up that difference, and they've got it back to 7 points now. But to make 7 changes and to get the result, you know, the lads can talk in much more depth about the performance than what I can, because they saw the game live. But the highlights that I saw, it was a fantastic result for the club. And I just think sometimes managers don't always get the credit they deserve, you know, because they're always criticised about doing things. And you take a chance as well when you make that amount of changes. But I love the way the players go in. Lookman, for example, Ademola Lookman. I know we're going to see Dewsbury-Hall's crazy, obviously, but you know, someone like Ademola Lookman, and you know, very much a part of the squad, doesn't really get to play that often. You know, at times he played, but you know, he took his chance really well, and you know, obviously got his goal. But there's no sulking. You know, players, they're not involved, and they're on the subs bench. They're part of the squad, and when they come in, you don't see them strolling around like as if they don't care. They go into that team. And that's what I like about Leicester, and that's the praise I want to give them, that they've got a very, very good squad. And I think that's the difference. But West Ham on their day have got a good team, but they just haven't got the squad and the depth that Leicester have got. And I think they proved that yesterday with the 7 changes.
And obviously, we've talked a lot about injuries, Tony, this season, haven't we? But we know things are steadily getting back almost to normal now for Leicester. Yes, there are still important players missing, but in terms of the numbers that they're getting back, it's so important that you can then rotate the squad when you have a number of games in a short space of time.
Yeah, and we're at that stage of the season, Dan, and we're into the last 6 weeks of the season, and we know that Leicester have got more games, more Premier League games left to play than any other team in the Premier League, because of obviously the postponements around Christmas time. And they're also still in European competition as well. So potentially there's still, 4 games left to play in Europe as well. So you add that up, that's 13 games in a 6-week period. And the games are going to come really, really thick and fast. So you need all your players back. Obviously, Jamie Vardy would be the one that you would mention about in terms of not having him back at the moment. But, to get the likes of Fofana back and Johnny Evans back, to get these quality players, Castagna, Ricardo Pereira's had so many injury problems. That there was a different back four yesterday, wasn't it? We changed the back four, and to do that, it's a massive risk in Premier League football, because if you make one change in the back four, listen to me talk about defensive stuff. Matt's the one to talk about this, but if you make one change in the back four, it can be very, very unsettling. So to play a whole different back four, it's wonderful that the players are coming back, and it's really, really good timing. They're closing the gap in the Premier League. And there's no doubt, as we'll talk about later, they've got a wonderful opportunity to get through to the next round of the Conference League.
And it was one thing that the Jerry picked up on straight away, actually, Matt, wasn't it? Was the back four. When you saw the starting 11, it was the fact that all 4 of those had changed. That's what Jerry picked up on straight away. Said exactly what Tony says. So don't knock yourself, Tony. You do know what you're talking about with defending. He said that it's a brave call from Brendan Rodgers to fully change the back four, because it's such an important part of the pitch, obviously.
Yeah, pretty unusual. Yeah, to go the whole hog and change all 4 of them. I think most people would have expected Fofana to have a rest, whatever. Probably include Johnny Evans in that as well, because they're both having to be nursed fully back to action, to be sort of battle hardened, if you like, game hardened. But then again, you look at it, it's a similar scenario, isn't it, with Castagna and Ricardo. They've both had their injury issues. Excuse me. And such is the level in the squad that there weren't any real qualms about, certainly the fullbacks being rotated. It's almost, I think there is probably a little bit of a pecking order, but it's almost any 2 from 4 really will be sufficient. And I don't think supporters are, too concerned who it is most of the time. They're all very capable. Centre halves, you think, well, perhaps there's an issue there. Yeah. Perhaps there could have been a way that could have started with Fofana and bring Evans on, or vice versa. People would have been a little bit panicky, but said yesterday as well, didn't we? Amati and Sancho, ironically, just starting to get it together as a pair in the heart of defence. And how's their luck? Evans and Fofana get fit and they find themselves on the edges of things. But I think, again, Iwan mentioned it yesterday at one stage, that they were at the heart of 3 clean sheets on the trot.
Yeah.
The performances. They're just getting a little bit of rhythm and understanding between them. It must be frustrating for them, but that's the way of the world in the heat of the Premier League, isn't it? That's the quality you've got to not just deal against, you've got to deal with it within your own ranks. But they were excellent as well, weren't they? Sancho and Amati yesterday. So the depth and the standard of the squad is constantly, you feel, with Leicester, constantly growing and deepening, not just in terms of personnel, numbers, but in the quality that each individual's got. So, it looks good. 7 changes, you say yesterday. No one really batted an eyelid, did they? In times gone by, they'll be, why is Brendan not taking this game seriously, etc., etc. People understand, I think, now, that sometimes not playing your full team on certain occasions in the medium to long run is more beneficial. Rotation has sort of taken a while to bed in, hasn't it, to some level? And there was maybe a little bit of a gulf, and there still are. There still is a little bit of a pecking order and hierarchy, if you like, with certain players. But for a lot of the squad, it makes it sound like it's not a good thing, but it's much of a muchness, really, in terms, but at a very good level. Whoever comes in, capable of doing a job. Yesterday, 3 players playing outfield, key players in any game, Maddison, Tielemans and Dewsbury-Hall. But there were match winners sprinkled throughout the team. That's a great sign.
Yeah, one of those match winners being Ademola Lookman-Ewan. Tony's already mentioned him and how impressed he was with his performance. Again, he's one of those players that has had to bide his time a little bit this season while on loan. But he scored a decent amount of goals. And exactly as Tony says, he took his goal really well yesterday.
Dan, yesterday was his 5th Premier League goal in 20 appearances, 1 in 4. That's not bad, I tell you. That is not bad when you're not getting a regular run in the first team. When you're in and out, you're coming off the bench. And he took his goal ever so well. And his goal against Liverpool was an outstanding finish. You know, to beat Liverpool 1-0. I think the only team in the Premier League Liverpool haven't scored against. It was such a good finish. Great ball in from Dewsbury-Hall. He has 3 touches. Look, one to control the ball. The second one is such a quick one after he's controlled it, which gives him that little opening that he needs. And it's a clinical finish. And like we spoke about Brendan yesterday, I think he was on about the second half, or maybe the whole game against PSV. You know, he mentioned 2 words: creativity and being clinical in front of goal. And probably that's what Leicester weren't on Thursday night. And that was the difference for me yesterday against Crystal Palace. When the opportunities came, they had fantastic creativity and they were clinical in front of goal.
Yeah, that creativity, obviously, for the first goal as well, came from Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall, Tony. Let's talk about him because he's been phenomenal this season. I think I've said to a few people, I think he's my player of the season, potentially, for Leicester, despite the fact he didn't come into the team until November. He's been that impressive.
Well, it just shows you the impact, Dan, doesn't it? If you're talking about a player that potentially is going to be Leicester's player of the season and pretty much missed the first, 3-4 months of the season, not through any fault of his own, he just wasn't in the team. It shows you the development that he's made. And, you know, we've on this show, we've spoke about him and we seem to be talking about him more and more and more. And it's more and more regular. I mean, in terms of the praise for him, I mean, what I liked about that first goal, it's just in looking forward. I get so frustrated with midfield players nowadays that either aren't on the half turn, or if they are on the half turn, when they get the ball, they want to pass the ball sideways. And as a centre forward, or even as an attacking wide player, as it was in the case of Lookman, you know, you want the ball played forward and you want the ball played early. And what I like about Dewsbury-Hall, he's got a bit of everything. He really has got everything, and he's different to other players. I spoke about it last week. For me, he's different to other midfield players. There's some fantastic players in that England squad. We know that, midfield players. But he's just got something a little bit different. And I love the fact with that first goal that Ewan was just talking about. I counted it. I think it was the same for both goals. I think it was 4 touches from Dewsbury-Hall. There was a touch, and then the through ball. And then it was a touch, and then the finish for the second goal. But he can play one touch as well. You know, he can run with the ball, he creates, and to have a midfield player like that come in and play with such supreme confidence for someone, you know, he's not young, he's not 17, 18, he's in his early 20s and that, but there's so much more to come from him. And, you know, he must feel fully confident now that he's a regular fixture in that team. He's proved that Brendan picks him every week in the Premier League. He gets picked for the games. He's playing in Europe as well now. And, you know, he is almost one of the first names on the team sheet. I've been so impressed with him. I really have. And I think, again, we spoke about it last week. He's under the radar, Dan. He's not, you know, they're finally now starting to mention. I think I read in the paper this morning about maybe a potential England call-up and things like that. And it's taken 4 months for the journalists to work out that he's a fantastic player, you know, which is fine because he's progressed in that 4 months. But, you know, another outstanding performance, man of the match performance. And yes, he's got to be right up there. There's been some really good performances in an injury-hit season for Leicester in terms of player of the year. But this lad has got a real chance of winning that. And that will be a fantastic achievement for him.
He's deceptively quick as well, Matt, isn't he? When he's moving, you wouldn't probably expect it from him. Particularly, he's not the tallest, is he? But he's very quick he beats a lot of players. Even when he's got the ball at his feet, he's very quick at dribbling as well. Yeah,
he's faster than he probably gives the impression of being. But also, that's because I feel it's like there's a determination with him as well. Like he quickens his stride when there's a ball to be reached. He doesn't lope around the pitch. There's a real energy about his play as well. So about tenacity as well. You used that word yesterday, and it is spot on. He's tenacious in his play. He's sharp enough, without being absolutely lightning, but he can make runs in behind. He does it on numerous occasions every game, doesn't he? He stretches the opposition. They link up particularly on that left-hand side, and Dewsbury-Hall appears in the sort of inside channel, causes problems for the opposition. Carries the ball exceptionally well, very poised, he's balanced. As a result of that, he's able to get his head up and have a look and see what is around him, be aware, and be able to pick those passes like he did yesterday for the opening goal. I think one of his main assets is, amongst many, is his engine as well. It's just constantly on the move. It just glides around the whole pitch, closing people down. The amount of times he breaks play up, puts Leicester back on the counter, puts pressure on opposition, or tracks back with a lunging tackle and just scoops the ball away, like we saw him against Man United in that instance, and then just gave a nice, simple, precise pass. He sparked everything off. And at the moment, he's sparking off the majority of good things about Leicester. He's in good company. There's some top-class players around him in that midfield section, right throughout the team. He's a standout player. Has been for quite a while now.
I think the thing that almost sums him up a little bit, Ewan, we'll get onto his goal in just a moment, but at the very end of the game, when he had the ball when the final whistle was, wasn't he? Harvey Barnes wanted a pass in. I think Daka wanted a ball through to him, but Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall took it to the corner. He knew he just had to see the game out, didn't he?
I mean, I wouldn't say it was an awkward last 10 minutes for Leicester yesterday. I mean, after that Zaha penalty, where the second one that he scored the rebound, I mean, they had a bit of pressure. They put a few balls into the Leicester box, but there's a few scrambles in the 6-yard box, which the lads defended ever so well. But, I can't remember Kasper having too many saves to make in the last 15, 20 minutes. But when you've got, 2 minutes left and you've got a chance to counter-attack, and Harvey Barnes was fuming, wasn't he? He was absolutely livid that Kiernan hadn't given him the chance to go on and put the game to bed. But he made the right decision, Dan. And I said to you yesterday, good players make good decisions. And that was a good decision. Run it to the corner, see the game out. That's good game management. Why risk that pass into Harvey Barnes, which possibly could have got cut out, which would have maybe given Palace one last chance to put the ball into Leicester's box? Why give them that opportunity? It was the right decision. And that's the good thing. I said yesterday, good players make more good decisions than they do bad. And he is, I would love, and you can possibly find out that, I would love to see on average the distance that he covers on a football pitch. Because he's all action. He is everywhere.
The 12 kilometres yesterday, Ewan.
12K did he, yeah. And I bet he does that on average every game. Yeah,
I don't know what the average is, but that's probably about 10 kilometres more than what I used to run in a game.
To be fair, Tony, he's, up until yesterday, his finishing wasn't to your level, was it? But what a finish that was from him. And
I saw the interview with him, and that first Premier League goal, because it's important, Danny. To get a first in anything is important. Whether it's coming off the bench, making this start, particularly your first goal as well. And his performances in the Premier League have certainly deserved the first goal, haven't they? And it was just a fantastic finish, and it was good play, wasn't it? Justin into Daka. It was a bit fortunate the way it got to him. I think there was a little tiny deflection as well before it got to Kiernan. But so you need that little bit of luck sometimes. But when he got it, it's the ball just made it that he's got his back to goal, and he didn't panic. He obviously could have possibly passed it, had done the soft option like some players do. Just roll it to someone or even give it away. But he had that little first touch, second touch. And by the time he gets his third touch, you know what he wants to do. He just wants to manipulate the ball, get it onto his left foot, and he's got a fantastic left foot, hasn't he? And the finish was stunning. Might have been a very, very, very slight deflection that just looped it up and that. But, even if there hadn't been the deflection, I think the goalkeeper wouldn't have saved it because there was that much power on it. And, you know, you're just pleased for him, really pleased for him that he got that goal. And it was a stunning, stunning finish. It really was. And, you know, he thoroughly deserved that. And now he's got that goal. The point I'm making about getting the first one, once you get that first one, you get the confidence. You're then not afraid to shoot. Because sometimes when you haven't got that goal, you're sort of little pass sideways, soft option maybe. But now he's got that goal, you know, he'll feel full of confidence. And again, that will only benefit Leicester for the last 9 Premier League games of the season.
And fair play to him for taking the shot on as well, Tony, because it wasn't a simple chance, was it? So you could maybe have forgiven him for trying to find the pass or something, but he just decided to back himself and let fly.
Yeah, and it's one of the hardest things to do, Dan, when you've got your back to goal. He had his back to goal. He knew he had a defender. You know where they are, and you're just trying to get the ball in a position where you can hit it. And that's why I was impressed with the 2-3 touches he had before the shot, because he had to manipulate the ball and get it to an angle where, you know, he's going across the goal. But you can't always hit it on the first one. Sometimes you have to take a little touch, which he did. And by doing that, it gave him the opportunity then to fizz it past the defender. And it was just a really, really special goal amongst many Leicester goals. I mean, how on earth they will do the goal of the season this year, Dan, I've no idea, because there's been some unbelievable goals. And that one goes into the top 10. But that's all it does. It doesn't win the goal of the season. It goes in the top 10 because there's been some unbelievable goals scored by the club.
When you look at the players behind him, obviously we've spoken about the back four, Matt. The one player behind him, Papy Mendy, let's praise him. I know we did on the post-match show yesterday, but it's well worth doing again, because yet again, he just went about his business yesterday.
Well, do you not want to let Iwan talk about Papy Mendy? He knows everything about him.
We said we were finished with going at Iwan yesterday.
Oh yeah, we did, didn't we? Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, that's one just mistake in a season. That's not bad, Matt. He's in one mistake in a season.
Well, I think something than that, mate. I've been waiting for years to have a go at you. But no, I mean that was in reference to the fact that Papy Mendy's not available, unfortunately. Hopefully, it doesn't prove a vital miss, but it's certainly a little bit of a blow, isn't it? He's not available to play against PSV or any European game for the remainder of the season. That's how far out of the reckoning he was, at one stage. And now he's a crucial part of certainly Leicester City's Premier League affairs. And with Ndidi being out for the season, it seems, he's slotted back in there. He's turned his fortunes round at the club. And then we said yesterday, initially, fair play to Brendan Rodgers for sort of biting the bullet a little bit. Okay, the decision's been sort of forced on him to an extent, but he's looked at it and thought, hang on a sec, who's probably the most secure player for me in that type of role in the squad? And he's come back to Mendy, hasn't it? And Mendy's also shown great character, because he could have been frustrated, despondent, looked to move elsewhere. I think the club were probably trying to find somewhere else for him, strike some sort of deal at one stage. But he's come back in, and not only has he shown a great attitude like that, but he's also stirred himself on, hasn't he, to play at the level that he has. You can't do that if your heart's not in it. Play as well as he has done, and he's really turned things round. And fair play to him. 4 days. Jerry talked about it yesterday, reliability, and you certainly get that from Papy Mendy, don't you? He was neat. He's very tidy. Reads the game well. He's efficient. Not overly glamorous in his play. Doesn't catch the eye that much, but does a very efficient job, doesn't he? He's he looks like the sort of player that we were hearing all about when he was on his way to the club, and you can see why there was a lot of talk then, and people are starting to talk again now about him, aren't
they? He definitely does play with heart, Iwan, doesn't he?
Passion, smile on his face, and Matty mentioned attitude. you can't question his attitude or his commitment to the football club. It's not those first few months at the start of the season couldn't have been easy for him. He, wasn't involved in the first team, wasn't involved in the cup games, and he probably thought to himself, "Well, I need to get away. I need to get away. I need to kickstart my career." But he's obviously knuckled down. He's got his head down. He's worked hard. You have to commend Brendan Rodgers on his man management skills, because when Mendy's been needed, they've obviously spoken. I wouldn't be surprised if he's put an arm around Mendy and had a word in his ear. And Mendy's giving the team everything at the minute. And we spoke about it yesterday. Those types of players, the types that do that nitty-gritty work in midfield, who don't really catch the eye with a 50, 60-yard pass, or don't put one in the top corner, or doesn't open a defence with a splitting pass. They go under the radar. Their work doesn't really get noticed. But it does, Dan. It does. That hard work that Mendy and the likes of Ndidi and Soumare have done, it doesn't get noticed by us and the Leicester fans. And he's come in. I thought he was outstanding at Old Trafford. I thought he played well at Arsenal at the Emirates. I was there. I thought he played well. I thought he was probably Leicester's best player on the day, even though he got taken off. But since he's been given the opportunity, I think he's been absolutely tremendous.
You know what, Dan? I'm just going to say on Papy Mendy, I mean, those type of players are worth their weight in gold. And if you look at any team that wins a cup or wins a league, they have a Papy Mendy in the team. And you need that sort of player. I mean, listen, I'm a forward. I love attacking, flair midfield, the Madisons, the Dewsbury. I love those type of players. But you can't have all those players in the team and not have anyone sitting in front of the back four. Because all of a sudden, you lose the ball and everyone's charged forward. You've got no one sitting in front of that back four. I think he's always done a good job for Leicester. And that's what I like about him. Again, another player like Lookman, who I already mentioned, they go into the team, they do a specific job. And you have to, I think it's quite a clever position, because I think if you are a clever player, you realise what you do for the team. And as a footballer, you always play to your strengths. Don't try and play the 50-yard ball that you just spoke about. Don't try and do things like that. Just win the ball, give it to the flair players, and do your job defensively. You know, you look at players that play, and I think it's someone like Neil Lennon. What a clever player Neil Lennon was. He knew what he was good at, and he'd done it fantastically well. Kante, another player in the midfield for Leicester. Without those players, you're going to have all the flair players in the world. You're not going to have any protection for that back four. So, he's been vital. And as we were saying, if he can't play on Thursday, then that's a big miss for the club.
Yeah, let's look ahead to Thursday. Ewan, you were with us, of course, for the first leg, weren't you? You said it definitely wouldn't be 0-0, and it was 0-0. But you can see why you said that. But it did take us all a little bit by surprise, the game going that way, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, 3 real chances created? One for PSV in the opening minute for Götze. 2 for Leicester. The Harvey Barnes shot that hit the bar was ever so unlucky. Iheanacho had probably the best chance. One that, when he's clean through with just the goalkeeper to beat, I would expect him to find the back of the net. Second half was very cagey, I thought. Neither team sort of wanted to throw caution to the wind, because it was the first leg, and try and get that vital first goal. And deep down, I think, even though Leicester have got to go away now and win at PSV, I think they'll be quietly confident, but I think they would have been quietly pleased with the 0-0. It's all to play for. 2 good sides, 2 teams in good form. I think PSV won yesterday 2-0. I think they rested that front 3 of Gakpo, Madueke and Götze as well. So they'll come into the game fresh. They're very good at home. I think they've won 11 of their 15 home games. It's going to be a test, Dan. But when you get to the quarter-final of any competition, it's not going to be a walk in the park. It's going to be a tough game, and that's exactly what it will be. Not just for Leicester, but for PSV as well on Thursday.
Yeah, we were talking, Tony, because PSV, they found themselves in a title race really with Ajax. They were 4 points behind them before the game on Thursday. So the fact that PSV did make quite a number of changes at the weekend, they rested their front 3. A couple of the midfielders changed as well. they still won the game anyway. I guess they've got the beauty of maybe the teams in the league not quite as good as the rest in the Premier League, but they still won that game and they rested players. So it was a bit of a win-win situation for them at the weekend.
Yeah, it was, Dan, and you would expect them to do that, but they're obviously having a good season, aren't they? To be chasing what is a very good Ajax team, that tells you everything you need to know. I think it's going to be a really exciting second leg. I really do. I think in a way it suits Leicester being an away team in the second leg. I know historically you always would rather be drawn away and then play the second leg at home, and I understand all those reasons, but I just think that Leicester have got the ability to go there and to shut up shop as much as possible, but also to have a real threat on the counter-attack. And, there's no away goals this year, as we know, so it's just basically we're just half-time in the match and you're level. And if you look across, I thought it was quite interesting looking across the board, Dan, the Europa League results on the same night and the Conference League results. And I think there was a couple of 2-1 victories, but the rest of the games, I think, were all drawn. And that sort of tells you everything that you need to know. Both competitions this year, there's some really good teams in the Europa League, but you look at some of the teams left in the Conference League, there's some really sort of big outfits left in that. And you're in the quarterfinals. As Ewan said, quarterfinals, you're trying to get into the semi-finals of a European competition. It's fantastic for the players. It's fantastic for the fans. I mean, the Leicester fans are going to have a real great time over in PSV. And if you can get into that semi-final, then you're dreaming again. And then, of course, you're then looking at the qualification for the Europa League to get back to where Leicester want to be anyway. So, it's going to be a really exciting second leg. But we've already spoke about it. This is a dangerous PSV team. And Leicester have got to approach the game in the right way to get the result they need.
How do you see it going, Matt, on Thursday in the second leg?
Well, it's difficult to predict, isn't it? On the back of the first tie, which didn't go as most people planned. It looked like it was going to be free scoring goal fest, didn't it, in the first half hour on Thursday night. Then all of a sudden, the dangerous situations and the chances started drying up. As you mentioned, there are only 3 clear-cut ones in the whole duration of the game. I think that was semi-conscious effort in the second half. I think PSV, sort of, the longer the game went on, I thought Leicester looked more in control, more comfortable. But PSV also sort of not resigned themselves, but they were less concerned with hurting Leicester, really. It was almost as if we do pinch something, then that's great. Let's be secure first and foremost, which we're led to believe was not their natural game. Certainly going by the goal-scoring record domestically is not how they normally go about things. So Brendan Rodgers is of the belief that things will open up over there, which may fall into Leicester's hands. You would like to think so. That's the positive way of looking at it. More space for Leicester to exploit. Maybe if PSV are going to come and commit themselves, I don't think they'll have a choice but to attack with the vocal supporters behind them. Will be chanting and cheering them onwards, won't they? And they've got a pretty decent record at home. They'll fancy their chances, but Leicester are within their rights as well to think that wasn't such a bad result. It probably suited PSV more out of the 2 teams, but only by a small margin. And as we said yesterday numerous times, all to play for, Daniel, isn't it? All to play for.
Yeah, that's the catchphrase at the moment, isn't it? But just a word on the fans. We saw how good their travelling fans were on Thursday. So if they're anything to go by, obviously the atmosphere we assume will be hostile, just as it was in Rennes in the last round. Matt.
Yeah. It was a special atmosphere against Rennes, wasn't it? And I can see a sort of similar scenario again. Really, they expect Leicester to have to deal with a bit of pressure early on. Hopefully, they've learned a few lessons from that, because I also wouldn't say they were fortunate, but they were treading on thin ice at times, weren't they? Brendan Rodgers wasn't happy with the performance in the first leg. The first half of that second leg. And Rennes, a very capable side, not dissimilar to PSV. Both got a fluency about their play. Probably a little bit slicker, Rennes. PSV looked a little bit more sort of individual based, Gakpo and Madueke, getting the ball out wide, full of pace, rangy. Gakpo, he was off his game, I think. If you listen to his reputation, he's well thought of. Didn't see too much of it, other than the possible penalty incident, where I think Leicester was slightly fortunate there after the slip from Ricardo, to say the least. But they're going to be a threat, aren't they? I think you'll see the fullbacks, Max and Junior, wasn't it? See them. They're going to be more supportive. It's going to be a lot for Leicester to deal with, but hopefully, like I say, they learned their lessons a little bit. Brendan Rodgers had to give them a little bit of a stern word or two at half-time. Shouldn't need to do that in a game of that magnitude. And I think they'll be ready and prepared for what's coming their way. And as we know, when Leicester are on the game, they're capable. So it's all set up really nicely, isn't it? All set up really nicely. And on the night, it's going to be who produces the individual exception on the night. And Leicester have got plenty of people capable of doing that, as have PSV. So it's up in the air, Dan, isn't it? Up in the air.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that we spoke, Tony, before the second leg of the Rennes game, and we were talking about how Leicester had obviously the lead from the first leg. They were able to manage the game a little bit more. Because it's 0-0, how much of a different game does that make it, do you think, on Thursday?
Well, I think you've got to expect PSV to come out and take the game to Leicester. And I think, to a degree, Leicester will be happy just to, be nice and organised, nice and tight, and try and hit them on the counter-attack. I mean, when you're protecting a lead, obviously, Dan, it's a lot easier because you know where you are with things. But as I said, it's just half-time. It's level. It's like playing a normal game, 0-0 at half-time. You go in and sit in the dressing room, you're level. And that's exactly where we are with things. So, it's important from Brendan's point of view, and he always seems to get this right. Got to pick the right team and get the right balance and look to be as dangerous as possible on the counter-attack. And, you'll need the sort of the pace of the likes of Harvey Barnes in that team, I think, just to give you that counter-attacking threat. Dewsbury-Hall, obviously, we know is going to play. So it will be an interesting team selection, but, I don't think it will be far off probably the team that played last Thursday. But it's all there for Leicester, isn't it? Just, no silly mistakes. I think that's the thing. You just concentration, and sometimes that can be the hardest thing for footballers, to concentrate fully for 90 minutes. Just a little switch off, and even just as an example, yesterday with the short corner that Palace took, where they had the 2v1 and it created the penalty incident. Just little things like that. Just switch on as a team, and just get those important players, the likes of Johnny Evans for fun. Just get everything organised, keep everything in front of you. But nothing to fear in my opinion, Dan. Nothing to fear from PSV. But they've got to concentrate, and they've got to put in a really, really what you would call a professional performance. Just get the result. No matter if it's 1-0, 4-0, doesn't matter. Just get the result that you need to get through. Or penalties, it doesn't matter. Just get through to the next round.
Final point on Thursday, Ewan. Do you agree with Tony? Would it be the same team pretty much that played in the first leg, do you think?
I would expect it, Dan. I think that's probably why Brendan made as many changes as he did. So you would expect the back four to be completely different. You'd expect Harvey Barnes to come in. Iheanacho possibly. Maddison's going to start. Dewsbury-Hall's going to start. So yeah, there won't be too many changes from the starting 11 that started last Thursday. And I think PSV can be got at, Dan. I watched the highlights of when they conceded 4 at home to Copenhagen. They overplay from the back. They will give you chances. I mean, Leicester got the chance for Iheanacho because they were trying to complicate things, trying to play out the back into midfield. The midfielder gets caught the ball. Leicester win it. They release Iheanacho, who should have scored. So Leicester will get chances. They will get chances there.
Right, Matt Elliott, you can go first with the games that caught your eye at the weekend. I'm sure certainly Ewan would want to say one in particular. I don't know whether you'll steal it before he can get there.
Ewan, I'm trying to think what's related to Ewan. Oh, okay, yeah. I won't leave that one.
Don't steal my one either, Matt. Don't steal my one either.
No, okay. Let's go. Well, they've been having topsy-turvy form of late, haven't they? Is the Chelsea 6 Chelsea banging 6 in after they've had a rocky period, haven't they? Both on and off the pitch. But then their qualities obviously come shining through. We're talking about individuals impacting games. They've got multiples of them, haven't they? There, and on any given day, that's what Chelsea can do to you. People are just starting to talk about possibility of Arsenal, possibly Tottenham, catching Chelsea, getting that 3rd spot in the Champions League. I don't think that will quite happen. All of a sudden, there's a different outlook, isn't there? But Chelsea, it just makes you wonder what's been happening to them against Brentford and Real Madrid. Okay, semi-understandable, but they took their eye off the ball, haven't they? But it looks like they're back on it there. So gave Southampton a real thumping, didn't they?
Iwan, go on. You can say the one that you want to say.
I'm going to surprise you, Dan. Who do you think I'm going to say, Dan?
I thought you were going to say Man City, Liverpool yesterday.
No, I'm going to say Norwich, mate. Norwich 2 Birmingham.
Oh, that's what I was thinking. Norwich game,
yeah. I think they haven't won in 7 Premier League games. They've lost 6. They had that 0-0 draw last week at Brighton. And I said before these 2 games had any chance. And it's really slim, let's be honest, of them staying up. They had to get at least 4 points from those 2 games. It was a good win, good performance against Burnley. You know, Burnley on the back of what they did against Everton on Wednesday night, in the manner that they've won that game with that late goal. I never thought it would be easy. Burnley never turned up. Yeah, really, really good win. It just keeps their chances, their slim chances, on a knife's edge.
Finally, Tony.
Well, before I was collecting my winnings for the Grand National, Dan, I watched Everton against Manchester United, and obviously cheering the Blues on, another one of my former clubs. And I've got to say, Manchester United were absolutely dreadful. They really were. They're not a good team at the moment. But having said all that, it was a tough win for Everton. You know, they were clinging on a little bit at times. But what a win for Frank Lampard. They really, really needed that. And I was just looking like the 8 bottom teams in the Premier League game, 5 of them won at the weekend, which begs the question why you're not been doing that all for the rest of the season anyway. But, you know, it was a vital 3 points for Everton. Not out the woods yet. They've got some tough games. They've got Leicester twice, as we know, Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea. They've got some really tough games to come. So they really needed that 3 points against Manchester United.
Well, as ever, we end the show with our football Jenga. We've been talking about the other results that took place at the weekend in the Premier League. It's a nice, easy one for you all. We've done this one a couple of times already this season. It's quite simple. The goal scorers in the Premier League games at the weekend. Because you are top left for me, Tony, you can go first for me, please.
Mbuemo scored for Brentford.
Yeah. Ewan?
Lookman.
Dewsbury-Hall.
I was just talking about it. Anthony Gordon for Everton.
Wilfred Zaha.
Kai Havertz.
Chris Wood's important goal for Newcastle.
Trossard.
Mason Mount.
Oh, I was going to say that, Matt. Alonso scored the first goal, I think.
You know, Werner got a couple, didn't he?
You saying that?
Yeah. Is that all right?
Mane.
I just think.
Who did you say, Ewan? Who did you say?
Tino Werner.
Timo Werner, yeah.
Sadio Mane.
Yeah. All right. Sonny got that trick for Spurs.
Kevin De Bruyne.
Diogo Jota.
Right, don't have a go if I don't say right. Kulusevski for Spurs.
Yeah, Kulusevski.
Yeah, that's the one.
Jesus.
Oh, come on then.
Oh.
I didn't see who scored for Norwich.
Oh, I did.
Just name one, you'll get it, wouldn't you? I'll give you a massive clue. There's only one player scores for them.
Pookie.
Hey!
I'm in trouble now.
And that's Tony's answer gone as well.
Yeah, that was me done. I'm trying to think who the other Brentford scorer was. I can't think. Oh yeah,
Come on.
I was at the game.
Yeah. I was going to say, we're too busy still celebrating the Grand National win, Tony. You were at the game.
That's me done anyway, so.
Rafina.
Oh, good shout.
Moreno.
Yeah, Rodrigo, yeah.
Well, I'll say Jack Harrison then. Has anyone said Jack Harrison?
Yeah. There's only 3 to get. We could have a tie here.
Oh, I don't think so, Dan.
I've got 2 of them. Who?
Odegaard.
Ah,
Yeah. Right.
Wepo.
Yeah.
Who?
Brighton.
Wepo. Right.
Yeah. There's 1 to get. So
No chance.
go on, Tony. If you get this, then it's a draw. Should we give him a clue or not?
Thanks for Norwich.
Oh yeah, he scored the first goal, but I didn't know his name anyway. I watched it. No, I won't get it, Dan. I'm out. I can picture it as a slight deflection, the goal winning, but I don't know who scored it.
No. Well, you two have drawn then. Anyway, in fact, we can do a little bit of a tiebreaker. So
Why have we drawn?
because there's only 1 answer to
We'll
get.
run out of answers, man.
Yeah. So Lee Smaloo is the answer. Is the last player from Norwich. So as a tiebreaker, I want you to shout out what minute did he score in? Close.
5th.
12th.
5th.
It was the 9th.
Oh, I'm closest.
Ewan's closest.
Ewan.
Yeah.
Hey, I
You
should have
lost
kept
by a minute.
I should have kept my glasses on. It says 5th with my blurred eyes.
Cheap, man.
I did think it was a bit suspicious you'd gone that far, but yeah. No. Well done, Tony. Well done, Ewan, rather, for not cheating and also winning on the tiebreaker. But no, that was good fun. That so. Well, a draw and then a Ewan win by default in the end, or by tiebreaker. That's Tony. Tony, are you heading up?
By elimination.
Yeah, I'm shooting off, Dan. I've got to get into London, so I'll speak to you soon, boys.
You going to France? Sorry,
TTC.
are you going to France for the game?
I'm sorry, Dan. Yeah. I'm Thursday morning out and Thursday night back. So I was under orders to get home for Good Friday and give her an Easter egg on Friday. So.
All right. Well, thank you very much to the 3 of you then, to Matt, to you, and to Tony as ever for your company. And yeah, we'll speak to you all again. Well, Thursday for the PSV game.
See you Thursday, Dan.
4 match day live start. So do join us.
Brilliant.
Have a great week, everyone.